Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Akiona Law Podcast. I am Lani Akiona, and in the Akiona Law Podcast, we talk about anything and everything that intersects in the areas of family law and divorce. And today, I am wrapping up my four-part series of what are the main parts of your parenting plan with Meg Gluckman. Meg is a divorce and co-parenting coach, and she is host of Welcome to the Other Side podcast. Meg specializes in supporting parents, whether they have toddlers, tweens, or 30 somethings, navigate these challenging life transitions with grace, resilience, and dignity. Meg, I'm so glad to have you back.
Hi, Lonnie. It's good to be here. I'm excited for today's conversation. This is a good one.
Yes. And for a reminder, for those who didn't listen to the other three parts, Meg and I first talked about decision making in a parenting plan. Then the second podcast we did, we talked about conflict resolution. The third part of this four-part series was a residential schedule, also known as a visitation schedule, custodial schedule. And last but not least, we are talking about section 14, other, the mysterious other provisions that you put in a parenting plan.
Exactly.
Yay!
Exactly. It's the catch-all.
The
It's
catch-all.
everything else that didn't have a place. We
Everything, and
throw it in here.
and listen, what I want to start off with is that, okay, so first of all, what I love about section 14 is that in a way, like you said, right, it's a catch-all. It's almost like in a way I try to tell people it's these guidelines. It's these
Mhm.
co-parenting guidelines that everyone is supposed to abide by. But can you necessarily ding someone, hold them in contempt because they
Mhm.
didn't follow a provision such as they didn't give you their new telephone number?
Mhm.
Not necessarily, but the answer is depends. But I'm getting ahead of myself, which is what I do. But anyway, uh,
Yeah.
Meg, so how do you approach the section 14
Mhm.
other?
Mhm. Yeah. I very similar to how you described it. I think of it as a lot of best practices. Like
Mm,
these are child-centered best practices.
I love
And
that.
I really love talking about this section with my clients
Mhm.
because I feel like it's an opportunity to clarify our values and to
Uh,
actually find a lot of things that we can agree on, right? There
oh,
might
okay.
have been a lot of things in the other parts of your divorce or in
Mhm.
the residential schedule that might have been really challenging, right?
Right.
And this one, I feel like you can get some really easy wins because most people look at the items in here or some of the items that you might want to include and say, well, of course I agree to that, right? And so it's nice
Right.
that both people can kind of be like, well, of course we agree on this. So some fun stuff.
So how do you approach it when you're discussing 14? Is there certain like buckets or sections you divide it into?
Yeah. So I think of generally four different buckets that I have
Okay.
or categories. And of course, there's stuff that doesn't totally fit, but generally they are communication, sa-
Communication,
safety,
safety,
parenting values,
parenting values,
and schedule.
schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All
Right.
right.
Yeah. So should we start with communication?
Communication, yes.
Yeah. Um, so like you just shared one, right? That we're gonna share current communication, like sorry, current contact information.
Okay.
That's like usually almost number one in almost
Mm-hmm.
every case, right? Like we're if any of our contact information changes, we update the other parent. Most parents are like, oh, of course. Yeah,
Of
I'll do that.
course.
Like it's
Yeah.
a no-brainer.
It seems so simple, but
It
sometimes
seems
when you're
so
in a
simple.
contested case, maybe not.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Um, Another one in the communication bucket is how we're going to use text, right? So, if there's an emergency, if there's a day of change to our transition time, if we're running late or something,
Right.
like that's when we're going to use text. And and we might put some parameters around it, like, um, you know, if if a child is injured, we're going to try to
Mm.
text within so much time.
Right.
to let the other parent know.
Or if you're, yeah, please text if you're going to be more than 15 minutes late to an
Yeah,
exchange or whatever, so I'm not just sitting here waiting.
yeah,
Common
exactly.
courtesy, it's like those courtesy things. It's just to kind of memorialize it.
Exactly, right? And I also think as a general practice, I try to get um, my clients to move away from texting all
Mm,
coordination, right?
okay.
So like if you're talking about needing to make a change, making a request for a change to the parenting schedule, in a month, oh, I
Right.
need that Sunday afternoon to do X, Y, and Z. Could you take the kids? Put that
Hmm.
in email,
Yeah,
right? Like that's not for text. It's going to get lost.
it will.
Um, put it in email, or even something like, next week, can you make sure that Bobby has his soccer cleats when he comes back to me?
Hmm.
Put it in email. Don't do it over
Good
text.
point. Good point. Just save the text for that immediate, right now, this is what
Yeah,
needs to happen.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And one piece of that too is uh, lots of folks, especially going through the divorce
Hmm.
process, um, can be kind of emotionally triggered every time they get a text from
Ugh.
their ex or co-parent,
Yes.
right? And so let's minimize that and let's control your access. So like when you choose to look at your email, right,
Mm.
you're going to be in a space where you're ready to handle whatever's coming through. So
I have to, I'm just going to interrupt and chime in
yeah.
here. Um, in terms of my own divorce
Mm-hmm.
that I am going through, and it's a high conflict divorce, people. I wish it would have been the other route where I could have
Yeah.
brought you in, Meg, and you could have created this beautiful, lovely parenting plan, but it's not.
Mm.
So we use Our Family Wizard.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, I do sign up for the Our Family Wizard notices, so I get it. But
Yeah.
even then, seeing that can be triggering.
Yeah.
So I have to wait until
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a good headspace where I can look at the message for
Mm-hmm.
my husband and then not be in a more calm space.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot to be said to sending things via email, or in my case the Our Family Wizard
Yeah.
application, and just waiting until you're ready, because sometimes it can be triggering. Divorce is it's tough and it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when
Yeah.
people get along,
Absolutely.
it's still
Even when
painful.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, right? Absolutely. Another communication item is communication access. So,
Ah,
you know, making sure that we say, like, we're going to make sure that the kids, when they're with one parent, have access to communicate with the other parent at a
right.
reasonable rate and reasonable times, which is very like uh disputable what that means,
What's
right?
what's reasonable, right?
What's reasonable, right? But we want to agree that when they go to one house, it doesn't mean that they can't have any communication with the other parent during that time,
Right.
right? So we're going to preserve their right to communicate with the other parent.
I have a question. When you do that, do you kind of include like this should include like telephone calls, text messages, or FaceTime?
Um, I think, well, one, it depends on the age of the kids,
Right.
right? Um, And I mean, really, I like to feel it out with the family.
Mm.
I try
Okay.
not to get super specific
Okay.
because the reality is it really changes as the kids age, right? So when you're dealing with toddlers,
Hmm.
right, or just, under a certain age, a FaceTime is probably the easiest thing to do, right?
Right.
Because they get to see him, they get to talk to him, they have 30 seconds of attention
I know, I
and
was
they
gonna
can
say
do it.
that.
But it requires that the present parent really facilitate that,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
then as they age, it might be much easier to just have a quick phone call
Mhm.
that the kid can do really themselves, right? And then at
Right.
some point you're getting to the kids have their own communication devices that they can contact the parents. So I think it's worth having kind of a general conversation about it, but not getting super specific in the parenting plan about what it is, because it's going to evolve as the kids age.
True. Good point.
Yeah. Any other communication ones that come to mind for you, Lonnie?
Whew, let me think. I was just, I had one of my parenting plans. I had my other provision open up.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Let me think. Let me think. I'm
Yeah.
looking at
I
it right.
actually one other, just as I asked that, one other one came to mind for me too. So while you're looking, is
Yeah.
encouraging communication or relationship with the extended families, right?
Oh.
So you could say this kind of crosses into what I consider to a parenting value, right? We are going to encourage communication, with the children between our extended families. And maybe it's specific, like just their grandparents or whatever. But holding that and just talking about, like, this is important to us,
Mhm.
that the kids maintain a relationship with their grandparents. And so we're going to make that possible.
And I can definitely see, especially when you have the younger kids, like, right, the toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's so important. But of course, as the kids get older, then the kids can communicate with the
Right.
grandparents themselves. Like in fact, with my boys, I text my two sons and then my mom saying, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
boys, are you guys free
Mm-hmm.
for lunch this weekend with me and Nana?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or
That's
then there's
awesome.
this whole text thread, and it's so hilarious when you're texting with teenagers.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah. Completely.
you
Completely.
get it.
Yep, I do. I do. All right. Any other communication items, or should we move on to safety?
I don't know, it's just I looked at mines really quickly and
Hmm.
it's kind of just similar with what you have. And I think especially too, I just kind of, I make it kind of general in the sense the children should have reasonable communication, email,
Hmm.
telephone, FaceTime with the
Yep.
parent they're not residing with, something real broad.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
of course, though, when they're younger, then maybe I'll put in something more specific. Maybe I'll put in set days or set times, because especially with younger kids, you really have to be cognizant of schedules, but
Yeah.
not necessarily so tied in where if it doesn't occur between this time, then you're SOL.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Yeah.
flexibility, of course.
Yeah. And I like to have a conversation with the
Mm,
parents too about how what might feel good and what might feel necessary
mhm,
during the initial period of separation and two homes and adjusting for the kids,
mhm,
is going to evolve,
mhm,
and that we have to differentiate how a parent is feeling
mhm.
versus what a kid needs, uh, relative to communication with that other parent, right? So if
Yeah, good
you're
point.
if you're the non-residential parent today and you're feeling like you're really missing the kiddos,
Mhm,
that's your feeling, right? And we have to differentiate that from them being potentially fully engaged
right.
in whatever they're doing over at the other parent's house, right? So
Yes.
we want the communication, as hard as this feels, we want the communication rate and, I guess, frequency, timing, all of those pieces
Uh-huh.
to be in the child's best interest, like what the child needs, less about what the parent who doesn't have the children at that moment craves, if that makes sense.
No, that's a really good point, because I think sometimes I know personally as especially with younger kids, there may be this mindset, oh, I need to say goodnight. I need to say
Mhm,
goodnight. He won't be
mhm.
able, in your head, you're thinking my child won't be able to go to sleep unless
Yeah,
I say goodnight to
yeah,
them.
yeah,
And that's more of your own need, where you want to be able to you want to be able to see your child and wish them good night.
yeah,
But maybe your
yeah.
child is just fully engaged with the other parent in their own bedtime routine, and
Mhm.
they said they saw you at after they ate dinner or before they took a bath, so that child is good.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Or I mean, the other thing is, this really ties into how, we talked about in the other podcast, how we design the residential schedule. so that those young kids are getting enough contact with both parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're really only going 2 days without seeing or 3 days without seeing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how much connection do they need with you
Right.
in between? And
In
again,
between.
I think that there's a transitionary period, right? There is a time period where more communication is going to happen, and then the kids get into their new routines, right?
Right.
And we want to support them in developing those routines too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well
Okay, so
said.
let's talk about safety then.
Safety. Okay.
Yeah. Um, so, and this can be different for everyone, right? But one basic one is like we're going to follow guidelines for safety relative to, helmets, seat belts, like anything the Academy of American Pediatricians, recommends for keeping our kids safe. I like that one a lot because again, it's one of those that like everybody's like, yeah, okay, like we'll wear seat belts. This
Yeah.
is an easy yes for us,
Remember the day
right?
when you didn't? When I was a kid, I remember the days I didn't wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Oh gosh.
Um, Another one is to talk about gun safety,
Ooh,
right?
yes.
You know,
Big
and
one.
and yeah, and generally it's, a conversation about a parent, both parents will notify each other if they are keeping a gun in the house and that
Yeah.
they will follow best practices to, store, lock, store the gun separate from
Mhm.
ammunition, like all
Mhm.
of those best practices there. But that can be an important conversation to have around
Do
that.
you do this when I do this in my parenting plan when I'm putting in a paragraph about gun safety? Sometimes I'll even add a provision that when the child is old enough, they have to take like a gun safety class so
Mm.
they learn how
Yeah,
to
that
use
that
it
might be,
properly.
especially, and that to me also falls into like family values, right?
Mhm.
So if that's an important thing for the family, like they can talk about, or important for one parent, like they can talk about that. I mean, my example is like my ex is a hunter, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
he always wanted to take the kids hunting. Like that was, and so yes, my daughter went through the hunter safety course, I think when she was 12.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, and so she's out there hunting deer. So
Your daughter
yeah,
hunts deer?
she sure does. She's a
Wow.
badass.
Okay, but does she skin her deer?
She does.
Oh, dang, she is
And then she
badass.
brings it over to me for dinner. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, that is so
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
does it
sorry
all.
for the animal rights lovers out there, but I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean, we have, just as a side note, like we have a deer population issue because we're on an island that doesn't have any sort of predators for deer other
oh,
than cars. So,
other than cars,
yeah.
man,
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah. So I think yeah, you can definitely include a hunter safety course at some point or a gun safety course. Yep.
Wow.
Um, Another one we talk about sometimes is corporal punishment
Ooh,
and
yes.
like where those parents sit on it, but also,
Mhm,
that both parents agree that they will protect the child from other individuals,
mhm.
right? Who might use physical or corporal punishment in any way. It's a good conversation. Again, I think so many of these things can be just a good conversation topic.
Meg, I have
Um,
to ask you, did you
yeah,
ever spank your kids?
no, I don't like, that's a great question. No,
Mm.
I haven't. Yeah,
I spanked my kids just a couple of times when they were younger, and then it
yeah,
hurt my hand. And also too, I felt bad. I felt so bad and it hurt my hand. So
yeah,
I've only done
yeah,
it like
yeah,
2 or 3 times. And then I was like,
yeah,
yeah, I can't do this. I'm just gonna
yeah.
resort to the timeout method.
Parenting is hard.
It is hard, but it's just, and then they're crying because you spank them. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I
yeah,
can't do this.
yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Are there any other safety items that you tend to include in section 14?
So in section 14, I think just following, sometimes a big thing is parents shall follow the doctor's recommendations in terms of
Hmm.
taking prescribed medicines or, like when kids have allergies, things
Yeah,
like that, or asthma, making sure
yeah,
that in each household, the parent has the appropriate medication prescribed by the child's pediatrician and that they're also, um, they're also making sure the child takes it,
yeah. I think that's a
which,
really good one.
yeah.
Um, and following on that is vaccinations.
Oh man. You're
That
that's a can of
that
worms you're going
it
down.
is a can of worms, right? But it's a good time if we can kind of talk about it in this kind of this arena
Let's
here,
do it.
right? And a neutral as they're developing the parenting plan and come to an agreement
Mhm.
about how they're going to treat vaccinations, that can really save some conflict
Right,
in the
you're
future.
like putting in the parenting plan that the parent should comply with the American and Academy of Pediatricians
Yeah,
recommendations regarding receiving uh child appropriate, age appropriate vaccinations,
right,
right?
right. And I think it's worth having a conversation that like if you go to court
Mhm.
on a vaccine question,
Okay.
the court doesn't really want to act like a doctor,
No.
right? It doesn't. So it's always going to go back and say, what does the pediatrician say?
Exactly.
Right? So knowing that, like, save yourself the hassle of going to court for the
Going to
court to
court.
say, what does the pediatrician say?
Yeah.
And agree that you will follow the pediatrician's recommendation.
Because, this, oh my gosh, this was such a huge topic when COVID came out and the
Hmm.
COVID-19 vaccine. And there's such big fights about one parent wanted to get it, another parent didn't. And the end result was that if you're going to go to court about it, if that's the courts are going to follow the doctor's recommendations.
That's right.
So you're
Yeah.
spending all this time and energy for nothing, even though you don't personally believe in the vaccine. It doesn't matter what you do or do not believe. The court's going to say this is what the child's doctor recommends. It's in the child's best interest and safety. So that's what I'm going to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
such a big dispute back
It
in
really
in
was.
the COVID days. Woo!
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And the before
So
times made.
that's right, the before times. Okay, let's move on to parenting values
Hey,
then.
wait, can I
Oh
add
yeah.
this in terms of
Hmm.
safety? I
Yeah.
always include a provision about drugs and alcohol
Mm.
where no parent, and again, sometimes it's a little bit getting into, I think sometimes it's just those reminders like, hey, when the child is in, when you have your time with your child, you know, don't expose them to necessarily people who are getting drunk
Mhm.
as a skunk.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Do things in a consume alcohol in a reasonable amount, not necessarily to the point where you're so intoxicated where if you were to drive, you would be impaired.
Mhm.
Or if you're consuming illegal drugs or substances. Sometimes it's just
Yeah.
those like little reminders, like, hey,
Yeah.
and don't expose your
Mhm.
child to undoing people who may be consuming illegal drugs or excessive amounts of alcohol either.
Mhm.
Because it can be scary for a kid.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great one. That's a great one.
Okay, so I interrupted you.
Okay.
Where are we at
No.
next?
Okay, so we're looking at parenting values
Parenting values.
next. Um, so let me think about which one I want to start with here. I think there's a couple that I include around protecting children from adult matters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So things like child support payments,
Mm,
um, kind of the progress of the legal aspects of your divorce, um, division of assets in the divorce, anything like that. That's at the adult level. That's
yeah.
that's above the kids' pay grade, right? They don't need to know that. And it confuses them, it complicates relationships, right? And the only reason that we are sharing that kind of information with them is because we are having some big emotions. The adults are having some big emotions around these topics. And we're thinking, like, we'll feel better if the kids know, or we're trying to use it as a tool to, to,
To be honest.
well, that's what we're thinking, to be
Yeah.
honest, but we're using it as a tool to disrupt their relationship with their parent,
Good point.
right?
Good point.
So keep adult stuff amongst adults. If you need space to talk about these hard topics, find another adult to talk about these topics with, whether it's a therapist or a coach or your attorney
Mhm.
or your BFF, like
Mhm.
whatever. The kids don't need to know about this stuff.
Or call Meg.
Yeah, call me. Right. I'll
Call
talk
you.
to you about it.
You
Um,
I'm gonna chime in here.
yeah,
Phew. So I just okay. So again, my boys are. I have my kids are 19 and 17. My youngest just finished his junior year of high school, and he's at. It's. I'm in that really tough position where he thinks he's mature enough. He
yeah,
thinks he's adult enough where he should know these things.
yes.
And I have to tell him, you know what, son, this is an adult matter. It's between me and your father, and I'm not going to tell you. And it's hard because guess who's involving him? His
Mm-hmm.
dad.
Yeah.
And in fact, just the other day via text message, my son asked me, how much are you paying dad in child support?
Mm-hmm.
How much? And he asked me that like 2 or 3 times. And I said, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
son, I am not discussing child support with you.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
And I, when I was younger, my mom was divorced. I never even a dream to think to ask my mom, how much is dad paying you in child support?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a different level of awareness
Yeah, it's like there's no
now
way
too.
in heck.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I think what you're getting into there is like a principle of co-parenting,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is, even if the other parent does this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to. Like it, I'm choosing, like you are choosing. We're stepping away from the parenting plan conversation a little bit here, but like as a principle of how I want to show up as a parent and as a co-parent, I am not going to talk about these topics, even if he does.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
tough.
And it's
It
hard.
really is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's very hard. It's very
And
hard. Yeah.
moving into shared values,
Uh-huh.
romantic relationships.
Yeah.
When do parents introduce the kids to new partners?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I go back and forth on whether to include this in the
Ah,
parenting plan.
yeah.
We always talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, it falls into that category of like, would you ever want this to come to court? Like somebody to try to say, we put it in the parenting plan that you were going to give me, 1 month's notice before you introduced your
Mhm.
kids to a like, I don't know about that. But we talk about best practices and like what would feel respectful, right?
Mhm.
And what would feel good. What do you usually talk about for
Yeah,
new partners?
that I agree with you too. That's really touchy because you don't want it to be, I mean, I get it, right? You don't, there's two sides to the equation. You don't want it where a parent is introducing the kids to a new significant other and it's only been a month and 3 months down the road then there's a new partner coming in. You don't want the children to be almost exposed to like this rotating revolving wheel of new romantic relationships. At the same time, it can also be used as like a tool or a weapon to in a way control the other parent and who the other parent decides to bring into
Mm-hmm.
this new unit with their kids. But so going back to what you're saying, normally when I include it, it's because both parents are in agreement and they want it in there. And
Mm-hmm.
normally I
Mm-hmm.
do like it's a 6 month time period
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've been with the new person for
with a
six
new
months
person. For 6
right?
months.
And generally I'll say like they're gonna let the other parent know,
Mhm.
some heads up time before they introduce them to
Mhm.
the kids, right? Because the real point of putting it in the plan and like having that agreement is how best can we support the kids through this new thing,
Right.
right? And what's in the kids' best interest is if um, the the other parent,
Mhm.
who's not, bringing in the new person, can be supportive of it,
Mhm. Right.
right? And isn't surprised by it, right?
Yeah.
Because we want the kid to feel like, whatever they experience at the other house, whoever they're hanging out with, they can comfortably share that with the other parent too, right?
Right.
So, like a kid who, suddenly gets introduced to a new girlfriend and comes home and tells mom, "Oh, dad just introduced us to his new girlfriend." And mom's totally shocked, had no
Oh,
idea this was coming,
yeah, that's no
right?
good.
How is she going to react in that moment? Like,
Mhm.
even if she does her darndest, right,
Right.
to not have a strong reaction, it's hard because you feel kind of sideswiped that this new person's coming in and all of this. So let's
Mhm.
let's help the other parent kind of be on solid footing so that when the kid does come back
Mhm.
and talk about it, it's not this like shock and surprise.
Yeah. 'Cause that doesn't feel good to get blindsided almost. Yeah.
No.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like it if they can give a little bit of a heads up. I mean, not, you know, um everybody's different, but if the other parent, especially if they're going to be kind of proactive on this, can do a little processing and work about how they feel about a new partner being introduced, right?
Mhm.
Like, that's really nice. But sometimes we don't get to do that work ahead of time and we just have to do it once that new person's there.
No, that's why I mean, definitely, I think therapy is really an important process of the divorce, even if you're agreed or contested. Because
Yeah.
for one thing, talking to your counselor is a lot cheaper than talking to your lawyer,
Yeah.
and the counselor can kind of help you process these feelings when your ex-spouse starts dating someone, begins a new
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a big milestone
It is.
to go through, for sure. For sure. One other value I like to include is that, you know, both parents are welcome and encouraged to attend school events,
Oh yeah.
come
Mhm.
to extracurricular activities, volunteer with extracurricular activities. Like that's that's a welcome and shared value.
How do
Yeah.
you address parent-teacher conferences?
Mm. I've never actually put that into a
Okay.
parenting plan. Um, I have folks who do them, I guess, both ways.
Mhm.
One, they attend together,
Mhm.
and do it. And then other folks who schedule separately and the
Yeah.
teacher does two conferences.
Right.
So I do like uh and I'm trying to think if I've ever included this in a parenting plan, but as a value of communication, if one parent has a concern, with school, and they make an appointment and talk to the teacher, like a best practice would be, to give the other parent a heads up that you're going to talk to the teacher and then to fill them in on everything you talked about, right?
Mhm.
And then, then the other parent also has an opportunity to either attend, if that makes sense, that you guys are in that kind of communication space where both people are comfortable attending, or
Mhm.
to talk to the teacher themselves, um, and
Okay.
get filled in. So,
And wouldn't that also
yeah.
to apply for, say, for example, like if a child is, annual physical appointments, or say if a child needed a separate medical appointment because again, they had to talk about allergies or maybe
Hmm.
orthodontia work needed.
Hmm.
You, it's kind of almost that same thing, right? Where if I'm gonna just get the primary residential parent or the custodial parent, maybe either letting the other parent know the appointment or just saying, "Hey, I'm going to fill you in afterwards. I'll give you like and this has to be email. You can't be
Yeah,
texting someone the
absolutely. No text.
summary. Put
Yeah,
it in an email.
yeah,
I met
yeah.
with Mary's doctor, and Mary's doctor, she recommended this is how we treat Mary's teeth grinding issue or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Mary's going to need braces because if she doesn't get braces, her teeth are going to start like crossing over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, that's definitely something you could include in here, and who is going to be the primary person for like regular wellness
Mhm.
checkups or
Other
regular
major
dental
medical.
cleanings,
Mhm.
those kind of things, and then how you will make decisions or share information. Yeah, from each of those. That's really good.
Because
Really good.
it's especially if you're asking, and again, based on my own personal
Yeah.
experience, there was a medical appointment scheduled for my oldest, and it had to do with my oldest needs a jaw surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of just, I don't even know what the condition is called. And I wasn't told of the appointment, and I get it
Mm-hmm.
because there's um there's a restraining order in place that I have in place between us. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, if I can't physically be there, I would have called my son so I could have listened in to what
Mm-hmm.
the doctor had said instead of being
Mm-hmm.
completely kept out of the loop
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then yet being told this is what the doctor said and this is how much you're going to have to pay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I wasn't even a part of this. I wasn't even part of this conversation. I don't even know, like, I would have liked the opportunity to have asked questions or what have you. And it
Mm-hmm.
does feel a little bit almost like a punch in the gut to not even be included or not even afforded the opportunity of this big medical decision and just kind of being told after the fact, well, this is what you're going to have to pay. This is what the doctor
Yeah.
said, this is what you're going to have to pay.
Right.
So,
Right.
and it does. So that
And
really sucks.
yeah, yes. And um oftentimes I'll say like on more on smaller scale
Hmm.
items, not quite that large scale, right? I often encourage folks that um it's normal that like say you're just taking your child in for a regular dental cleaning,
Yeah.
right? And the dentist says, "Oh, we found a cavity, we want to do
Yeah.
this, you have these two options, blah blah blah."
Hmm.
Um the parent who wasn't there,
Hmm.
I will say, get the report from the parent who was there. So that would be nice. And then it's on you to call the dentist
Hmm.
and have a conversation. My son came in today. You said there was a thing, and the co-parent said there's two different treatment options. Can you explain them all to me? What do you think is that like taking that
Good
because
point.
or responsibility for getting that information that you want from it. Um, uh, Only because, and I'm not using your particular circumstance, but I'm just
Right.
saying in a regular kind of health treatment setting, right? Like
Right.
it makes sense that only one parent would go to a dental cleaning. Like you
Yeah.
don't need both people there.
You don't need both people
So,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So being okay with um taking responsibility for that kind of stuff. Or even, like the vaccine question, calling the pediatrician and having your own conversation with them about like, so what do you think the risks are of this? Do we need it? What's the timeline? That kind of stuff.
Just kind of even going even further in terms of what you're saying of let's I'm going to go back to your dental cleaning
Yeah.
example, right? So let's say if I was the parent and I took my child to the dental cleaning and say they had two cavities
Yeah.
and I would tell my spouse, "Hey, the dentist said they have two cavities. This is a different course of treatment. Here
Yeah.
is the dentist's contact information. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to contact them and
Um,
learn some more about the treatment options."
yeah. Yeah.
I would kind of go that extra and just be like, "Here you go." So
Yep. Yep. And then it's
it's
on the other parent
then
if
it's on
they
the other
want to figure
parent,
it
and
out.
you've
Yep.
you've done all you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Totally. Oof, it's hard. Again, we
Good
already said
stuff.
parenting is hard.
Good stuff in this other. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think we have one last area,
Okay.
schedules. Okay. But we'll we'll zoom through this quick. I like to put uh, a line in here or a bullet about honoring the residential schedule, and that
Okay.
we're not, neither parent is going to encourage, the child to not honor the residential schedule, or tell the child essentially that it's up to them what the residential schedule is, right? We're gonna honor what's decided.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any thoughts on that one?
No, I do that too because you
Yeah,
definitely don't want the kids to kind of be put in the middle. Like, wouldn't you rather live with me full time
yeah,
instead of your mother? And so I always put that in because I think that's really important to have. Uh,
yeah.
I was also kind of looking at this can kind of be a big topic too, but including a provision in terms of the child's clothing and possessions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a child
Mm-hmm.
has a certain teddy bear and the child wants to take it back and forth.
Yeah,
Or also too, it is a parent's duty to make sure your kid has clothes and
yeah,
in your own home, and especially with toddlers, you don't want to necessarily
yeah,
keep all the clothes that maybe dad sends Lucy over with, and then
yeah,
Lucy goes back and she's in clothing too small or what have you.
yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. I also like to include something about like the child is welcome to bring things back and forth, and the parents will help facilitate that. And that if
Yep.
any point there's something that has kind of like landed in one house, the other parent can request that it come back, that kind of
Hmm.
stuff like that. Yep, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, the other piece about scheduling I like to say is just noting that the current residential parent is the one in charge at public events.
Hmm.
So if you're at a soccer game and it's on mom's time and there's a decision about, whether to go out for pizza afterwards as a team or something like that, that's her decision, right? Even though dad is there, like
Yeah.
cheering on the team and so forth. So I just like to call that out sometimes because um, it can feel a little messy when both parents are there, at least in the beginning. Usually parents kind of
Uh,
work it out over time.
right. Right. And here's another thing too, in terms of scheduling. I like to always include, if a parent's going to be away with a child for more than more than two overnights or three overnights, let the other parent know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna take Susie up to Lake Chelan this weekend, the Labor Day weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
this is where we're gonna be here, and then we come back on this date. If you need to get a hold of us, this is where we're gonna be staying.
Yeah,
And that really
I
kind of
like that.
kicks in more in terms of vacation. And that's something like I with the parents' agreement, it's like, okay, when do you want this apply? Only on vacations, or do you want it to apply for 72 hours away from a parent's residential home? Give the other parent
Mm-hmm.
the heads up.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
courtesy, honestly.
Yep. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Um, Another one on scheduling is kind of expectations around time swapping.
Oh,
I like to make sure that we understand that if if you ask me for a modification to our residential schedule and I agree, there isn't any expectation that you have to agree to my next request or something
oh,
like
that's a
that,
good
right?
one. Right,
So
right.
you could,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but there, like if I say yes to something, it doesn't require you to say yes to
It's
my
not
next
tit
one.
for tat.
Not tit for tat. Yeah.
Mm. Do you call that time swapping in
Yeah.
other?
That's usually what,
Oh,
yeah, that's usually what
oh,
I
I
call
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Good one.
Hmm. Anything else big? I mean, what I would just note is that this section 14 can be so customized
Yes.
too,
Yes.
right? So what your values are, what's important, like I had a family that was very big soccer family, right? Like they put in there that they were committed to supporting their kids to whatever level of soccer that they wanted to get to, right?
Oh, that's a
Both
good
parents
one.
were committing to doing that,
I love
right?
that.
But that was already like a joint value, and they were just
Yeah. Yeah.
putting it down. I've had other parents kind of on the extracurricular line say, we commit to supporting one like sport per season for each kid, right?
Right.
Right. But there's
Is that
no requirement that we do more than that
right?
in any season. Um, there might be, music lessons, um, idea, what's another one? Sorry. Um, any sort of like religious ceremony, like we're going to both support, a bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah, something like that, um, or a certain family tradition,
Mhm.
you can put that in too. So it can be very customized to the family. Yeah.
That's a good point, and that's what I like about Section 14. You
Mm-hmm.
could maybe put nothing, it could just be
Yep.
blank. You
Yep.
could have maybe 5, or you could
Yep.
have, like, 15 or 20
Mm-hmm.
provisions in Section 14. I love it. It is completely up to you and customizable when you're doing it
Yep.
by agreement.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I think that's what I have, Lonnie, for today.
That's, I love the way how you talked about it in buckets. Can you kinda summarize again the 4 buckets you do?
Yeah.
The
So
header?
it's communication,
Right.
safety,
Safety,
our parenting
our
values,
parenting values,
and schedule.
schedule.
Yeah.
Communication,
Mm.
safety, our parenting values, and schedule.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Meg. And
Yeah.
to the listeners out there, that wraps up our 4-part deep dive episode into making a parenting plan with Meg Gluckman. And if you're just turning into this episode, go back and listen to the other past 3 podcasts that we did on decision making, conflict resolution, and the residential schedule. Meg, this was a joy, a pleasure, and a privilege. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
My pleasure, Lonnie. It's been great. Thank you.
And Meg, how can people get a hold of you to get your help in creating
Sure.
a parenting plan or whatever else?
Yeah, check out my website, which is just my name, Meg Gluckman, GLUCKMAN.com. And I have a ton of free resources there around separation, divorce, and co-parenting. One of my favorites is 5 questions that will help you prepare for your next either attorney meeting, mediation, or co-parenting meeting, so that you can feel more calm and confident going into those meetings. So you can
You've
grab
got
that resource.
you've got 5 questions as a resource.
I've got 5 questions.
Wow, I almost that's awesome. That's great. Take advantage of that, folks.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much, Meg. It was my thrill and again, my pleasure, honestly. And for those of you, my listeners, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Akiona Law Family Podcast, wherein we talk about anything and everything that intersects in the areas of family law and divorce. And until next time, be well. The information in this podcast is general advice only and should not in any respect be relied on as specific legal advice.